Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely. Always ready to dig into some history.
Well, today we're tackling France's ancient regime. You know those YouTube videos from Historia on 60 Segundos?
Yeah, catchy name.
Right. Well, they did a quick breakdown of the ancient regime, and honestly, it's a great starting point to unpack this whole era.
It's one of those historical periods that even if you don't know the specifics, you just know. Powdered wigs, lavish palaces.
And a whole lot of simmering tension that explodes into the French Revolution.
Exactly. And to really understand the revolution, you've got to grasp the system it tore down.
So let's talk about that system. The video jumps right into these three estates. Sounds kind of like a fantasy novel, but it's basically how French society was organized. And honestly, this thing was built on inequality.
Oh, absolutely. You've got the first estate, that's the clergy. Now, imagine bishops living like kings. Exempt from taxes, enormous influence.
Wait, hold on. They didn't pay taxes at all.
Nope, not a penny. They had serious power and influence, especially the high-ranking ones. Practically untouchable, really.
Wow. Okay. So you've got these bishops living large, but then I'm guessing not all clergy were living the high life.
You got it. Think about the parish priests. They lived much closer to the everyday struggles of their congregations. So even within the first estate, you had this gap.
Man, talk about an uneven playing field.
Okay.
So if the first estate is the clergy, who's in the second?
That would be the nobility. And guess what? No taxes for them either. They lived pretty cushy lives, totally detached from how most of France lived.
Okay, so we've got the clergy and the nobility, both living tax-free, basically on the backs of...
The third estate, that's everyone else. Farmers, laborers, even wealthy merchants, all lumped together.
So basically the entire weight of the system was on their shoulders. They paid for everything.
Pretty much. And that's where the resentment really starts to bubble. You can see why the third estate would feel pretty used.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when the video mentions this group, the bourgeoisie, educated, wealthy.
But with zero political power. Imagine working your way up, becoming successful.
And still having absolutely no say in how your government works.
Talk about frustrating. You're contributing, paying your taxes, but you're a nobody in the eyes of the system. It's like a recipe for discontent.
Big time.
Yes.
So you've got this whole powder keg of inequality just sitting there. And at the tippy top of this whole structure, the king. How do you fit into all this?
Well, this is where absolute monarchy comes in. It's exactly what it sounds like. Total unchecked power.
Talk about pressure. Though I guess when you believe in this whole divine right to rule...
That's the thing. They weren't just kings. They were God's chosen representatives on earth. And nobody embodies this better than Louis XIV, the Sun King.
Oh yeah, wasn't he the one with that famous quote? Something like, I am the state.
L'état c'est moi. Yep. Imagine a leader saying that today.
Social media would explode. But back then, that was the reality. The king answered to God, not to the people.
Exactly. And all of this is playing out against a backdrop of a, shall we say, delicate economic situation.
Because most of France was rural. Right? Lots of farming.
Exactly. And guess who was working the land, paying the bulk of the taxes?
The third estate. Want to guess. They didn't even own the land they were working.
Bingo. So you've got this tiny fraction of society reaping all the benefits, bearing none of the burden.
Yeah, that usually doesn't end well. It's kind of crazy, though, how these themes of wealth inequality and taxation are still things we're arguing about today.
It's a tale as old as time, but going back to the ancient regime, what gets me is the lack of social mobility. Like, it was basically impossible to climb that social ladder.
It was like the system was frozen solid. You were born into your role, and that was it.
Born a peasant, you die a peasant. Born into nobility, life's a breeze.
Yeah.
Your destiny was set from day one. And that, my friend, is a major ingredient in the revolution that's brewing.
It's mind-blowing,
Oh.
honestly, to live in a world where you couldn't even imagine a different life.
And that's what makes the French Revolution so pivotal. It shattered that whole idea of inevitability. The ancient regime, rigid and unequal as it was, just couldn't last.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Imagine living in a time where your birth determined your entire life. No opportunity for advancement, no chance to change your stars. How would you even begin to challenge that? Something to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.